All right, so I'm starting to feel a little bit better, and today we're going to be going over who I think the top 10 current characters are in Honkai Star Rail. Now, this is going to be going over, what the characters do at E0, how they function, proper team setups, everything in that nature. Now, obviously, it's somewhat difficult to go over top characters in the game because of the fact that in comparison to when the game first came out, right, we are now gearing more towards team-centric ideas, whether that be break, whether that be dot, elation, remembrance, like a hyper carry DPS character. That's all that is taken into effect, and it's interesting to see where the game has gone compared to like when Zila first came out, right? It's crazy. We've gone from Zilla to now we are at SW9s, Silverwolf's SP, and the Elation flagship, right? So going over this, we have some honorable mentions that I do think are actually very warranted. And the reasoning why these are honorable mentions is because they have fallen off, waiting for a buff, all of that in this sense, right? So the first honorable mention is going to be Acheron. And while putting Acheron there, I do think a character like Mortax Blade is going to be extremely good for her, and I will go over him in a separate video. Obviously, I can't put him up here in this current top 10 because he's not actively out and available to play in the game. But I do think Acheron is a very honorable mention. You do have some very diehard Acheron mains who still use her to this day, while she has fallen off in terms of raw DPS capabilities, in terms of, comparison to everybody else. I do think that she is still very, very strong in terms of raw damage output that she's capable of doing. Another character that I do think is going to be an honorable mention is actually going to be Aglaya. And the reasoning why Aglaya is just honorable mention is because she is still extremely good. Obviously, when you think of Remembrance, you don't think of Aglaya. You think of the Remembrance flagship. And, that's fair. But she still is very capable of doing damage. Getting, extremely fast is her biggest thing because it scales with her overall damage capabilities. So I do think she is actually in right here. And the last character I kind of want to put in honorable mention, I do think I might get a lot of flack from this, is actually going to be a character personally I really love. So, it's a little biased, but it is actually going to be Sunday. And I do think Sunday is still extremely strong, being able to provide a lot of crit damage, being able to advance action forward, being able to regenerate energy for the active, the beautified target is still very good. Outside of that, he doesn't do a whole lot, but I mean, for what he does, he's extremely strong. So now moving on to my personal top 10 characters who I think are still extremely good, and coming in at number 10 is actually going to be Cypher. Cypher has definitely fallen off quite a bit. She was never really the main damage dealing character, but because of the ability to defend shred an enemy, being able to count as a negative status is very good. It's obviously very good for someone like Acheron, but I do think as we progress further and further into the game, I do think Cypher actually has a possibility to come back in meta relevance, but I just, I do think that she will just continually fall further and further behind. Next up is going to be Herta. And Herta, same thing with Acheron, maybe not to the same standard, but the DPS fall off is absolutely insane and massive. Herta is still extremely strong. Her enhanced damage is still very powerful, but that's all she really does, right? I mean, she has I guess you can call it a follow-up attack, really, but it's just raw DPS capability. But other characters actually do a lot more when it comes to that. Next up for so that's what, 10, 9. All right, so next up at number 8 is, and this actually pains me quite a bit, it's going to be Finon. And Finon is my boy. He's my favorite character in the game, but the way we are going about DPS capabilities with everybody on the team being able to provide something in terms of damage, in terms of buffing for everybody else is extremely good. Finon is a character where, you know, he is the hyper carry DPS character. He wants to get all the core flames, he wants to get in his Castellana state, and outside of that, he doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, he does a lot of damage, right? And the ideal Finon team is you have Finon, you have Saridra, you have Danhong PT, and then you have another supporting character of your choice. Typically, it could be Sparkle, it could be Sunday. It's just Finon has definitely fallen off a little bit in terms of raw damage capabilities because of what he's competing against in terms of other characters on the team, right? Next up is going to be Firefly, and Firefly's buffs make her so good. I know I'm talking strictly about characters at E0, but like even if you want to get E2, it's still ridiculously busted how good she is. She single-handedly has brought back the break teams, and they fell off quite a bit. Obviously, you know, they had a little bit of a resurrection when Dahlia came out, benefiting Firefly tremendously, but what she does in terms of damage numbers is absolutely insane. Being able to stay in the complete combustion state longer is very strong, and you know, Firefly is just busted. She's so good. Next up is going to be Tribby, and keep in mind, I personally don't have Tribby. I decided to skip her. You can call me dumb. That's, I mean, I'm kind of wearing it now. But Tribby is very strong. She's not as busted as if you would get her E1, but she's still extremely good in terms of her damage capabilities and able to provide a lot of true damage for everybody else on the team. Tribby is just very good. One of those key supporting characters who actually benefits just everybody on the team phenomenally. So now we're going into the top 5, and this is probably, I don't think, going to be controversial. Actually, hold on, let me do this. Boom. It's not going to be very controversial, but I do think in terms of what the characters actually do, it's very noteworthy. And honestly, I think the top 5th character is going to be Hysolins, and the reasoning why I have Hysolins up here instead of like in the top 10 is because Hysolins came out, she single-handedly revived an entire team, and much similar akin to the likes of the Firefly buff being able to revive the break team. I do think Hysolins, you know, reviving the entirety of the dot team brought back a lot of joy for a lot of people, and the consistency that the dot team has is by far better, in my opinion, than the break team. Being able to have her, Kafka, and then you can have your option of a sustained character, that being Huahua or even Hyacinth, wherever you are right here. And then having like maybe a shield character if you want, or maybe having Black Swan. Like the team is just so, it's very simple to play, but it's so consistent, and because of that consistency is why Hysolins is right here, because she allows that consistency to happen. So moving on now to number 4, I do think number 4 is going to be Evernight, and I'm putting Evernight here, spoilers, even above Castris, just because of the fact that in terms of damage capabilities, being able to provide a lot more survivability for the team, Evernight, honestly, in my opinion, actually does that a heck of a lot more than Castris. And we are moving away, obviously, from Remembrance, and because of the Remembrance team, HP Shill has just been stupid and ridiculous. But I do think, just in terms of what you want to vertically invest, right? If you have the option to vertically invest into Castris or into Evernight, most people are going to tell you to vertically invest into Evernight to get that E2, because arguably it's the best E2 in the entire game. So that single mindset is very noteworthy, because while E0 wise, maybe she provides a slightly little bit less, maybe a little bit more depending on your team setup than Castris, The vertical investment capabilities is just absolutely insane, fully unleashing Evernight. But even at U0, she's still extremely powerful with her Evi. Just all the damage, being able to boost her own crit damage is incredible. So now moving into the top 3, and this is going to be interesting because I do think number 3 is going to be Yao Guang, and there's twofold why I think Yao Guang is actually going to be the top 3 character in the game. Number 1, it is shilling towards elation, right? Number 2, because it's shilling towards elation in the new path, you need a character who's going to help benefit your elation DPS moving forward, whether that be Evanescia or whether that be SW9s. And the character who does that stupidly strong is Yao Guang. Being able to activate in a hot instance instantly at 20, Punchline is very strong. Being able to boost your all type res pen is extremely good. And also the fact that she's able to, with her light cone, regenerate energy every time enemies start cycling in. It's like you continuously snowball everything moving quicker. And for a character like Evanescia and SW9s, you get more hot instances that actually benefits them tremendously. So I do think Yao Guang is a top 3 character currently in the meta. Whether or not she maintains this top slot is completely entirely how we progress further with the elation meta. But for an elation DPS character, you definitely want Yao Guang as the number 1 priority to vertically invest in a team. Now we go into the top 2, and the top 2 characters, in my opinion, it's really not debatable. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put them here. You can have an argument whether or not they deserve to be number 1 and number 2. But I do think number 2 is going to be Silver Wolf. And the reasoning why Silver Wolf I think is so strong is because of her build style, because of the fact that the more punchline you get increases the amount of MMR you get, and by doing so it allows you to further boost your crit rate once you get up to 100%, and then all the excess goes into your crit damage, so you can solely focus on her speed stat, ideally reaching that 200 speed to fully increase her elation damage capabilities. It makes building so much easier for her compared to every other character in the game where you have to really nitpick, where in this case, right, ideally you want to get that 200 speed, and honestly you can be around 80 crit rate, 80 crit damage, and still be extremely good for what she needs to do, obviously with the damage capabilities and her enhanced basic ability, being able to have 3 instances to do massive damage. You can also have the ability to get your mystery boxes to either do increased damage or regenerate skill points for the entire team is very good. And I still think number 1 is Hyacinth. Hyacinth is easily the best healer in the game. Not only that, but she actually does quite a bit of damage. And then obviously if you have her light cone, it's essentially having another character all in of itself. If you don't have Hyacinth, then running the Remembrance team is like a death sentence, because you don't have that consistent, reliable healing that she provides, along with Fat Ika, everybody's favorite meme lolcow. This is honestly what I think is probably the top 10 characters in the game. The top 10, there are these 5 slots. You can make an argument for other characters, I get even the honorable mentions, but I do really think the top 5 characters in the entirety of the game is extremely good. You might be wondering, Cyrene isn't even there. Like, you have what, 1, 2, 3 Chrysos heirs on the team. Well, guess what? Cyrene, while she is very good, ideally you want to have E2, and that's not what we're talking about. You can make the very similar argument that I made it with Evernight, but at her very base value, it takes extremely long to get that, her main ultimate ability, unless you're on the Remembrance team, right? But having Evernight really supplants that. And then having Hyacinth just makes the team so click and so just run extremely well. But yeah, that's what I think the top 10 characters are going to be. I guess I can just throw Cyrene right there for an honorable mention. But yeah, let me know what you guys think